"I don't date widows." The words fell between them like a glass shattering on marble, sharp, cold, impossible to ignore. In the quiet corner of the sunlit cafe, surrounded by the soft clinking of cups and muted conversations, the sentence felt louder than a scream. The woman sitting across from him didn't flinch, but something in her eyes dimmed, and the little girl wrapped around her arm tightened her grip as if she sensed the sting of rejection without fully understanding it. Before we step further into this story, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel if you believe in kindness and second chances. Stories like this remind us that compassion can change everything. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from today? Ethan Caldwell had always considered himself practical. At 34, he was a financial consultant who lived by clean spreadsheets and predictable outcomes. He believed in planning, in minimizing risk, in avoiding emotional complications. Love, in his mind, was something that should add ease to life, not weight. When his sister insisted he try a blind date, he agreed reluctantly, picturing someone carefree, someone without baggage. That was the word he used when he thought no one was listening. Across from him sat Amara Singh, her posture composed yet protective. She wore a soft blue blouse tucked neatly into a beige skirt, her dark hair pinned into a low bun. Her elegance wasn't loud. It was quiet and resilient, like a flower pushing through cracked pavement. Beside her sat her 4-year-old daughter, Noor, with wide, observant eyes and tiny fingers wrapped around her mother's arm as though anchoring herself to the only solid thing she knew in the world. Amara had not planned to bring Noor. The babysitter had canceled last minute, and after years of learning to adapt, she had simply smiled and decided that life did not wait for perfect circumstances. She had lost her husband, Rohan, in a car accident 2 years earlier. One rainy evening had shattered her world, leaving her with hospital corridors, condolences that echoed hollow, and a child who asked every night when Papa was coming home. Grief had not broken her. It had reshaped her. She had returned to work as a school administrator, learned to manage finances she once left to her husband, and endured the quiet judgment of people who believed a young widow should remain suspended in mourning forever. But loneliness is a quiet ache that doesn't always show on the surface. When her colleague suggested a blind date with a stable, successful man, she had hesitated. Then she had thought of Noor, who deserved to see her mother smile again. The date began politely. Ethan spoke about market trends and property investments. Amara listened thoughtfully, asking gentle questions. Noor colored quietly on a napkin, occasionally glancing at the unfamiliar man across the table. There was a moment, a brief, fragile moment, when it seemed like the conversation might soften into something warmer. Then Ethan asked about her past, and Amara, refusing to build a connection on lies, spoke honestly. She told him she had been married. She told him her husband had passed away. She told him she had a daughter, and that was when he said it. "I don't date widows." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't mean to be cruel. He believed he was being honest. He spoke about emotional complexities, about not wanting to compete with a memory, about preferring a fresh start. He said it all calmly, as though discussing loan options. But what he didn't realize was that life is not a balance sheet, and people are not liabilities. Amara's fingers stilled around her glass of water. She felt embarrassment rise in her chest, not for being a widow, but for hoping, for daring to imagine that someone might see her as more than her loss. Noor sensed the shift and leaned into her mother, pressing her cheek against Amara's arm. In that instant, Ethan noticed something he hadn't before. The way Noor looked at Amara was not ordinary. It was not the casual affection of a child distracted by toys and sugar. It was reverence, security, as if her entire universe existed in the woman beside her. And Amara, even in humiliation, gently stroked her daughter's hair, whispering something soft enough that only Noor could hear. Ethan felt an unfamiliar discomfort. He had expected tears, maybe anger. Instead, he saw dignity. He saw a woman who had survived devastation and still chose gentleness. The date ended shortly after. Amara stood, thanked him for his honesty, and left with Noor's small hand in hers. Ethan watched them walk toward the glass doors, sunlight catching in Noor's hair. For a brief second, he felt as though something important had just slipped through his fingers, but he dismissed it as sentimentality. Life moved on, or at least it tried to. A week later, Ethan's carefully structured world cracked open. His older brother, Marcus, and sister-in-law were driving home from a family gathering when a truck ran a red light. The phone call came past midnight. By morning, Ethan was standing in a hospital hallway that smelled of antiseptic and shock. Marcus survived with injuries. His sister-in-law did not. And suddenly, there was a little boy, 6-year-old Arjun, sitting silently in a plastic chair, clutching a toy dinosaur, staring at doors that would never open the same way again. Ethan had never seen grief up close before. Not like this, not raw and disoriented and small enough to fit in children's shoes. Arjun didn't cry at first, he just kept asking when Mama would wake up. When someone finally explained, his world shattered in slow motion. The wail that escaped him didn't sound human. It sounded like something breaking beyond repair. Ethan moved into his brother's house temporarily to help. He watched Marcus crumble under the weight of single fatherhood and sorrow. He watched Arjun refuse to sleep alone. He watched him draw pictures of his mother with angel wings, then tear them up in frustration. One evening, while helping Arjun with homework, Ethan noticed the boy's teacher had written a note suggesting counseling. At the bottom was a number. The counselor's name was Amara Singh. The name hit him like a wave. Fate has a way of arranging lessons when we least expect them. Ethan almost ignored it. Pride is a stubborn thing. But Marcus insisted they call. And so, 2 days later, Ethan found himself sitting in a small office painted in calming shades of cream and pale green. Across the room, Arjun sat on a rug, building blocks with another child. That child was Noor. And kneeling beside them, guiding their tiny hands with patient warmth, was Amara. For a moment, neither adult spoke. Recognition flickered. Ethan felt heat rise to his face. Amara's expression remained composed, though her eyes held a quiet understanding. She treated Arjun gently, never forcing him to talk, simply giving him space to exist in his grief. She taught Marcus techniques for responding to nightmares, for answering impossible questions. She spoke of loss not as a wound to hide, but as a scar that proves survival. Ethan watched her transform his nephew's pain into something manageable. He watched Noor share her crayons with Arjun without hesitation, as if empathy were second nature. He saw how Amara balanced motherhood and professionalism with strength he had never bothered to imagine. And slowly, shame replaced his certainty. One afternoon, as Arjun laughed for the first time in weeks while chasing Noor in the waiting area, Ethan felt something shift inside him. He realized he had judged a life he had never tried to understand. He had labeled resilience as baggage. He had mistaken depth for complication. After the session, he asked if he could speak with her privately. He didn't defend himself. He didn't justify his words. He simply apologized. He admitted he had been narrow-minded, that he had never experienced the kind of loss she had endured. He confessed that seeing his nephew's pain had stripped away his illusions about fresh starts. Life, he said quietly, does not offer clean slates. It offers chapters, some beautiful, some devastating. Amara listened. Forgiveness is not something she gave easily, but she recognized sincerity. She told him that being a widow was not her identity. It was a part of her story. And stories, she said, make us who we are. Weeks turned into months. Ethan remained involved in Arjun's therapy. He began volunteering at the community center where Amara organized support groups for single parents. He learned to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. He learned that loving someone with a past does not mean competing with it. It means honoring it. He watched Noor grow braver, her laughter louder. He watched Arjun slowly rebuild trust in the world, and somewhere in the quiet exchanges between therapy sessions and shared coffees, something gentle began to bloom between him and Amara. Not out of desperation, but understanding. This time, there were no careless declarations, no dismissive labels. There was patience. There was humility. One evening, months after that first disastrous date, they found themselves back in the same cafe, the same corner table, sunlight filtering through the glass. Noor sat between them, happily explaining a drawing she had made of two big people and two small people holding hands. Arjun nodded enthusiastically beside her. Ethan looked at Amara and saw not a widow, but a warrior. Not baggage, but bravery. He saw a woman who had loved deeply, lost painfully, and chosen to live fully anyway. And this time, when he spoke, his voice carried something entirely different. He didn't say he didn't date widows. He said he admired strength. He said he respected her journey. He said he would be honored to walk beside her, not ahead, not behind, beside. If this story has touched your heart so far, take a moment to like, share, and comment below. Your support helps these stories reach more people who need a reminder that compassion still exists. And before we close, write the word second chance in the comments if you believe people can grow beyond their mistakes. Love did not erase the past for either of them. It did not pretend tragedy hadn't shaped their lives, but it proved something far more powerful, that hearts broken by loss are not damaged goods. They are capable of deeper empathy, fiercer loyalty, and truer connection. Ethan once believed widows carried too much history. What he learned was that history is what makes love meaningful. And sometimes the lesson life teaches you is the one you were too proud to learn on your own.